I'm constantly asked if I think the cruise lines are worse now than they used to be. After analysing how cruisers are rating them right now, the answer seems to be mostly yes. I've pored over the online reviews and ratings of 25 of the biggest cruise lines aimed at English-speaking cruisers over the last 9 months. A staggering 20 of them are being rated lower than ever before, with just 2 being rated higher. Welcome aboard. I'm Gary Bembridge, and to make my findings as helpful as possible for you, I'm going to reveal the current best and worst rated lines right now in each of the 5 categories the cruise industry uses: mass resort lines, premium lines, small ship luxury lines, ultra luxury lines, and local focused lines. Let's start with the category more passengers go cruising on than the others, the popular resort style lines, which includes Carnival, Royal Caribbean, MSC Cruises, and Norwegian Cruise Line. The highest rating by cruisers right now in this category, and just narrowly beating Carnival, is Royal Caribbean with a score of 3.2 out of 5. So why are cruisers rating them the best in this category? Their reviews suggest it's mostly to do with the shows and their entertainment options, including big theatre production shows, ice shows, water shows, a busy daily program that caters for all ages, and all the activity features on board like flow riders, slides, game rooms, zip lines, and so on. Also, I see the new megaships are extremely popular, with Icon of the Seas helping boost recent reviews. But even ships like Symphony of the Seas that I was on recently and their other huge resort ships are driving higher scores. But the ratings and reviews are pulled down by cruisers on the older Royal Caribbean ships, which are felt to be increasingly dated and worn. And as Royal Caribbean kind of leads their advertising with big, bold, action-packed, glitzy ships, when people get on the older ships, they're not surprisingly disappointed more than ever before. Reviews and ratings are also dampened by the numbers and crowds on ships, especially as many ships now sail over double capacity with kids sharing parents' cabins. And that leads to many lines and everything from the Windjammer buffet to the water slides. The worst of the resort lines right now is MSC Cruises with just 2.7 out of 5, and they got the most 1-star ratings of all 25 lines I reviewed. So why do cruisers rate MSC so poorly? While many say they find MSC ships attractive, there are 5 things they consistently bring up. First, the ships are overly crowded. MSC does have kids traveling for free and lots of shared family rooms, so these ships can be extremely packed and spaces are always busy. It can be hard to find places around the pools or often in many of the venues. Second, as a result, service is slow and there is poor and dismissive customer service. Thirdly, entertainment is average, especially though compared to the other lines in this category. Fourthly, the food is at best average, with many people saying the buffet is disappointing and repetitive. And lastly, there is a lot of upselling on board. Which brings me to what people like most about them in the reviews: the low fares and kids traveling free. Those that like them feel they are the best option of all the lines in terms of value. If that was the best and worst of the resort style lines, which lines are doing well and badly these days in the premium category, as the industry calls it? The premium category lines tend to have smaller ships than the resort lines, carrying from about 2,000 to say 3,500 passengers. They don't have features like water parks and slides, but they do still have a wide range of cabins from inside through to suites. It mostly includes long-established lines that cater more for older couples with a pretty traditional cruise program. The lines in this category includes Holland America, Princess, Cunard, Celebrity, but it also does include Disney for families and Virgin Voyages for 18+ travelers only. The best scoring line with 3.6 out of 5, and one of the few that saw a growth in its ratings recently, is Celebrity, which is part of the Royal Caribbean group, who also topped the resort category right now, as you just heard. Unlike most lines, many cruisers talk about how Celebrity have improved their product: better ships, improved service, and food. What I'm seeing is their decision to launch the Edge class ships, Edge, Apex, Beyond, and Excel, is driving their improved ratings and their reviews for sure. These new modern ships have the most positive reviews, even though the infinite balcony cabins do definitely divide opinions in the reviews. However, cruisers traveling in the older Solstice and Millennium class ships feel that those are being neglected and are starting to look a bit dated, less well maintained, and they're losing, excuse the pun, their edge. The other dampening factor in the reviews is the impact of kids. The new ships are attracting younger cruisers with kids, and this is proving fairly divisive. Those used to cruising on Celebrity without kids are complaining about the disruption that kids are causing, while those taking kids are complaining that there's not enough for their kids to do and that the kids clubs are not good enough. So while the new ships have driven Celebrity's ratings and reviews upwards, the premium line, that's getting the worst score these days, had theirs driven downwards, largely due to their new ship. The worst scoring premium line right now is Cunard with 3.1 out of 5. Their scores and reviews have been dragged down since the launch of Queen Anne, largely as many existing Cunard travellers feel it's not Cunard enough and they dislike some of the features like the Queen's Room and the overall layout and design of the ship. The flagship transatlantic Queen Mary 2 liner is still pretty much getting overall good ratings and reviews, although many reviewers generally feel that Cunard is kind of watering down the experience and feels more mainstream than luxury these days. Now personally, I think that Cunard create this issue because their advertising suggests a luxurious experience with white glove service and loads of glamour, but once you're on board it's not quite like that and is broadly a similar experience to Princess or Holland America unless you're cruising in a grills suite. Talking of luxury, many cruisers in the premium category seem to have upgraded or tried smaller luxury ships in the last few years, and I can see in the ratings and reviews of this next category what effect that is having on which lines do well and which do badly. The lines in the small ship luxury category like Azamara, Oceania, Viking and Saga mostly operate with ships between about 700 and 1,200 passengers. There's some like Windstar are much smaller. Most have a wide range of cabin types, starting from inside and ocean view up to suites, and make much of being able to call into smaller ports than bigger ships can, or about docking in city centres, while of course bigger ships must dock in further away industrial ports. There is a line that stands out by some margin in this category, and is actually the second highest scoring of all 25 lines I reviewed, with an impressive 4.6 out of 5 at the moment, and that is Viking Ocean. Being adult only pushes up the reviews and ratings, attractive to some as more families are cruising on premium lines, but the main reason for their high rating is their consistent quality, and there's no sense of them cutting back as cruisers accuse other lines of doing. That's certainly what they're saying in the reviews. They do have a very loyal audience that tends to be the over 60s and 70s, and they do seem to be a more cautious travellers who frequently talk about how Viking takes care of all the details, as they include transfers and so on, and people definitely like that. I saw many reviews and high ratings though by first-timers who really like the lack of onboard upsell that they got on premium lines, because Viking does have many more inclusions. The limited negative reviews are by younger cruisers who feel that it caters only for an older crowd with staid and less relevant entertainment, and I do have to agree with that personally. The worst of the small ship luxury lines right now is Oceania, still with a relatively good score of 3.7 out of 5. Oceania gets marked down as existing cruisers felt the lofty promise in their marketing is no longer being delivered, and first-timers say they expected more for their money based on this promise. Oceania have created a rod for their own back because they advertise that they have the finest cuisine at sea. But almost universally, recent reviewers say they don't these days, and several other lines have caught up and even exceeded them in their view. Another thing that is affecting the reviews is their inconsistent fleet. They have these new modern ships like the Vista, which seem well liked, but they also have old and increasingly dated R-class ships with tiny cabins and very small bathrooms, and these pull the rating and the reviews down. Oceania also changed their fare inclusions and exclusions during the time that I did look at the reviews to something called Simply More, and that was really unpopular. They've also, by the way, just changed that again, and I think that's going to affect their results going forward. Talking of inclusions, the next cruise category has the greatest level of these. Those you will see, those are having an unwelcome impact on the ratings of some of the lines. The ultra-luxury category often style themselves as offering 6-star service, with all suite ships and inclusions like drinks, gratuities, Wi-Fi and specialty dining. Though some actually have even more than that. This category has seen new entrants like Explorer Journeys the resurrected Crystal, and Ritz-Carlton Yachts, who joined the long-established Silversea, Seabourn and Regent Seven Seas. Scores overall are really high in this category, but the two highest scoring are the new lines. Explorer Journeys, launched by MSC, scores an incredible 4.8 out of 5, with the most 5-star reviews of any of the 25 I studied. The second highest scoring in this category was Crystal, with 4.4 out of 5. Explorer Journeys ships carry 922 guests, and the reviews say things like Explorer's a 5-star floating masterpiece. Reviews constantly say the ships feel luxurious, cabins are plush, and rave about the dining. The only negative spoken about is that evening entertainment is, pretty much everyone says, underwhelming. The worst performing line in this category is another Norwegian cruise group line, Regent Seven Seas, with 3.5 out of 5. Now, Regent offers more inclusions than some in the category, like flights, pre-stay hotel based on grade, transfers, and multiple excursions in ports. Though recently they have actually started offering a fare option with less inclusions as well. There are two key issues I saw in the Regent reviews and ratings that I want to highlight. First, cruises feel overall they don't recently match the quality of the other luxury lines, and although many in the reviews compare them to Seabourn and Silversea, increasingly I see reviewers compare Regent and in fact the other ultra luxury lines to Explorer and Crystal, as these seem to be the new elevated gold standards in the category. Second, for Regent, the biggest impact on their reviews and ratings were directly related to their more all-inclusive experience. I saw repeated complaints about complicated flight routings and pre-stay hotels. I have to say, I agree that based on the Regent trips I've done, they haven't had great pre-stay hotels and they offered not great flight routings. Also, there are many complaints about the choice and quality of the included excursions, with the best ones being sold out and really hard to get. There is another category I want to talk about, local focused cruise lines, which are sold exclusively or mostly to residents of one particular country. The UK is the most noticeable of these, with many including P&O Cruises, Fred Olsen, Marella, Ambassador and Saga. The best scoring of these is actually Fred Olsen, with a score of 4 out of 5, where a fleet change seems to have had a really big impact. They retired some ships and bought 2 of the older Holland America ships during the pandemic shutdown, relaunching them as Borealis and the Bolette. After some negative reviews early on about the condition of the ships, they seem to have worked on them, and these days reviewers seem to like the ships, the food and the service. The worst scoring of the UK lines by a really long way was P&O Cruises, which gets one of the lowest scores of the 25 lines I analysed, with a low 2.6 out of 5. Now, P&O used to be a very traditional couples line that's transformed in the last few years by launching mega ships and value pricing. So they're becoming a family-focused, fun-packed line. They kind of want to be in the UK what I think Carnival is to the United States. The new ships are big and crowded, and past travellers talk about P&O as now being distinctly average, with a real sense of cutbacks in the product, food and service, moving to things like once-a-day cabin service. They do have, though, 2 adult-only ships, Aurora and Arcadia, but those reviews aren't great either because people talk about the ships looking kind of old and dated these days. In terms of the US, the regional line that does incredibly well is Margaritaville at Sea, with 4.1 out of 5 score. I was, to be honest, quite surprised at that from what I've seen of the line. However, it's clear that they know their audience, and their audience loves the great value short breaks that they provide. If I haven't mentioned one of your favorite lines, it means they're basically in the middle, neither good nor bad right now. Let me know what you think of your usual line these days in the comments. And join me over in this video, where I reveal what we're all doing that is currently driving cruise ship crew crazy. See you over there.